Okay, let's dive in. Navigating an airport. It can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes, can't it?
Oh, definitely. Even if you speak the language fluently, there's just that buzz, the rush.
The signs, needing to be ready for anything an official might ask you.
Exactly. Now think about doing all of that if English isn't your first language. That pressure, it ramps way up.
Yeah, it turns into a real high-stakes situation, almost like a test at every single step.
Right. Simple things like asking for directions or understanding an announcement, they suddenly become these major hurdles.
And you need very specific language, often right there on the spot, under pressure.
Get it wrong or just misunderstand and you can miss your flight or just feel totally lost and stressed out.
So the big question is, how do you get that specific, practical English tailored for that exact environment and get it quickly?
Well, for this deep dive, we looked at a really interesting resource that tries to tackle exactly that.
Okay, what have we got?
We've got excerpts from a script. It's for an English learning podcast called Learn English Fast, Real Conversations for Daily Life. And the specific episode is At the Airport Travel English Made Easy.
Ah, okay. So very targeted.
Very. And our mission here really is to kind of dissect it. We want to look at the anatomy of this learning material.
Well, like how does a, 10,000 word script focus just on the airport try to build those conversational skills fast? What are the mechanics?
What makes it work? Yeah. The source material tells us it's set up with two hosts. There's Alex, the native speaker, and Lena, who's presented as the learner.
And they're practicing dialogues.
Yeah, aiming for realistic, natural-sounding stuff, trying to simulate real airport interactions,
Yeah.
role-playing different scenarios.
Okay. And what's the script's, stated goal? What are they promising?
Well, it's pretty ambitious. They say they want it to be realistic, natural, engaging, fun, and immersive, all for, fast improvement.
That's a lot to pack in.
It is. And the idea seems to be weaving together the dialogue practice with vocab, grammar, pronunciation, kind of all in one go, not as separate lessons.
That blend feels important, doesn't it? It's not just about rote memorization of phrases. It's trying to build actual fluency within the context.
Exactly. So let's look at how they handle a key airport moment. The check-in desk.
Okay, the first hurdle for many travelers.
Right. And they start with the basics, as you'd expect. The script's got those standard lines like the agent saying, "Passport and ticket, please."
And the traveler, here you go. Standard stuff.
Yep. But then it quickly moves into common requests. The example given is, "I'd like a window seat, please."
Makes sense. But does it just stop there? Or does it add more nuance?
That's what's interesting. According to the source, it doesn't just stop there. It immediately points out that while "I'd like" is perfectly polite, you might also hear or want to use something like, "Could I get?"
Ah, so offering alternatives, showing that there's more than one right way to say things, teaching flexibility right away.
Exactly. That flexibility is crucial for, real conversations. And they push beyond just simple requests, too.
How so?
They get into practical problem solving, like what happens if your bag is overweight? The script introduces language for that.
Oh, okay. Like asking about fees.
Yeah, phrases like, "Is there an extra fee?" Or maybe, "How much do I need to pay?" Stuff that equips the learner for things going slightly wrong.
Which, let's be honest, can definitely happen during travel.
And the source also says they use role play within this check-in section for different scenarios. Maybe your flight's delayed or you want to ask about upgrading.
So simulating that need to adapt your language depending on what's actually happening.
Right, because real interactions aren't neat, linear scripts. They change. Okay, so that's the dialogue part. But then they also weave in specific grammar points.
Ah, grammar. Always the fun part for learners. How do they approach it to make it stick better, as the source puts it?
Their angle seems to be grammar and context only. They don't just present rules in isolation.
Okay, give me the example they used.
Yeah.
The one highlighted was the difference between present simple for routines and present continuous for actions happening right now.
Right, like the classic, I fly often, that's a routine, versus my flight is leaving now. That's the current action.
Precisely. And by putting those examples right into the airport context, maybe the character says, "I fly often for my job," but then later, "Oh no, my flight is boarding," and they try to make the grammar rule feel less abstract.
And more like a tool you actually need to use in that situation, to be clear.
Exactly. The script's philosophy, as stated, is grammar in context sticks better. And you can kind of see the logic there, right? It links the why directly to the immediate what.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, what about pronunciation? That's another big one.
The source says they use repetition and sort of gentle correction.
Any specific examples mentioned?
Yeah, the phrase boarding pass. They emphasize stressing the first syllable, boarding pass.
Ah.
And they contrast it with how it might sound if you stress the wrong part, maybe sounding a bit like boring pass.
Which could cause a moment of confusion, definitely.
Yeah.
Little things matter.
Those details really smooth things out. Another element they apparently include, which I thought was quite smart, is a cultural tip.
Ooh, interesting. Culture's so crucial but often overlooked in basic language learning. What was the airport example?
It focused on U.S. small talk. The script explains that an agent asking something casual like, "How was your day?" isn't usually looking for a long, detailed answer.
Right, it's more of a standard polite opening.
Exactly. And the expected simple reply is just, "Good, thanks," or something similar.
And the script highlights that this might feel different depending on your own culture.
Yes, the learner character Lena apparently mentions that in her culture, that kind of question from a stranger, an official, might feel a bit too personal.
Which is a great point. It shows why understanding those unspoken social rules is just as important as the words. What's normal chit-chat in one place?
Could feel intrusive somewhere else. It really underlines that communication is more than just language mechanics.
Absolutely. Okay, so check-in, grammar, pronunciation, culture. Where else does the script take the learner?
The next big hurdle, security.
Ah, yes. Lots of instructions there.
Exactly. So this part of the script focuses on understanding those direct commands. You hear things like, "Please remove your shoes and laptop." You have to understand those.
No room for error there.
Pretty much. And it also includes practical questions from the learner's perspective, like, do I need to take out my liquids?
Again, very functional. It seems like they're really sticking to that idea mentioned in the source. What was it?
Real-life English is about function, not perfection.
Right. That feels like a core principle running through this whole thing.
And that's actually a really empowering message for someone learning, isn't it? It kind of lowers the stakes emotionally.
Yeah, it shifts the goal. It's not about sounding like a perfect native speaker on day one. It's about getting through the airport, achieving your task, managing the situation.
Exactly. Focus on the function. Now, looking beyond those specific scenes, the source material mentions a few other things about the full 10,000-word script.
Okay, what else is in the package?
Well, first, just the sheer volume, 10,000 words of dialogue aiming for naturalness.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of exposure.
Definitely.
They also specifically highlight key vocabulary. The examples given were terms like layover or carry-on, essential airport jargon.
Right. Words you might not use every day, but are crucial when you're traveling.
Mm-hmm. And there's apparently a listener Q&A section, too.
Oh, like addressing specific questions.
Yeah, the example question was something like, how do I ask for vegetarian meals? So it suggests they're trying to anticipate and answer common practical learner queries that might not fit neatly into the main dialogues.
That's useful. Proactive problem solving.
And two other things mentioned, offering the dialogues at both a slower speed and a natural speed.
Ah, that's classic scaffolding. Helps bridge the gap from clear understanding to coping with real-world pace.
Exactly. And finally, a free worksheet to go along with it, presumably for reinforcement.
Okay, so when you put it all together, the realistic scenes, the context-based grammar, the pronunciation focus, the cultural notes, the specific vocab, the Q&A, the different speeds, it really does sound like a very comprehensive attempt to tackle one specific high-pressure environment.
It seems designed to hit those common learner pain points, fear of mistakes, not knowing the right phrase, cultural misunderstandings by giving hyper-relevant, immediately usable tools.
Yeah, it's a really interesting example of super targeted language learning.
Mm-hmm.
By narrowing the focus so much just to the airport,
Yeah.
they can really drill down into the specific language and the cultural expectations of that place. It's trying to replicate the density of that experience,
Right.
but in a structured way.
It definitely makes the case for learning language as a tool for doing things, not just as an academic subject.
But, reflecting on all this, it does make you wonder, how much can any script, even a really detailed 10,000-word one that's trying hard to be realistic, how much can it truly capture the sheer unpredictability of a real live conversation?
That's the perennial challenge, isn't it? Balancing the structure you need for teaching with the, well, the inherent messiness of how people actually talk to each other. Where's that line?